Yes, welcome back to the Mark McIntire Show, Minds That Matters. It's Wednesday again from 2 to 3 when we're here, rebroadcast, of course, this evening at 10 p.m. and streaming live on that occasion and tonight's occasion at newspress.com. Also, we're rebroadcast for those of you who can't join us today, Saturday at 4 p.m. At all these times, you can just jump on the internet and get your Minds That Matter that way. Welcome back, loyal listeners and new listeners. We're getting emails as far away as Okinawa, Private First Class Marine Corporal. No, he can't be a Marine Corporal and a Private First Class, Josh Ward. He has to be one or the other. He's one or the other. In Okinawa, my sister Maureen in Florida, welcome. We're getting a lot of good reaction about the show. And thanks for joining us once again. Today we have a very interesting guest, which I will get to very, very quickly because we have so much to talk about. Today's topic revolves around the question as to whether or not ethics, law, and public policy can possibly catch up with the changes in virtual reality systems and technologies. Are we already virtual citizens of a virtual nation state ruled over by a virtual government? My guest today is somewhat homegrown. He's just back from China, where he's been teaching for 3 years. His name is Mychilo Cline, and the first name is spelled Mychilo. Cline, the author of Power, Madness, and Immortality, the Future of Virtual Reality. He's also written another book, which he has brought along with him, concerning the ethics of virtual reality systems for economic and social change. Mychilo, nice to have you here.
Great to be here, Mark.
How did you get interested in virtual reality?
Well, after graduating from Westmont, I studied engineering, physics, and philosophy. And after graduating from Westmont, my first job was at QAD in Carpinteria. At QAD, they make business software. And as I was working at QAD, I became increasingly interested in the impact of the software we were developing. And one of the things that struck me was we didn't spend a lot of time thinking about what it is we were making, what the implications, what the impact of the software we were making was.
You mean the human impact, how it changed people's lives, their values, their communication with each other? Is that what you mean?
Yes. The software we use in some ways might be analogous to the language we speak. How does it change the way we think? How does it influence human society? And this is something, of course, many of us have become interested in with the development or with violence on television or video games. But at QAD, it was something that I became increasingly interested in. And when I went on to graduate school, that was the field that I was interested in pursuing.
So if I'm reading correctly, it was at Westmont College you studied philosophy, and naturally that involves ethics and sociology and epistemology and metaphysics. And then you also have a double major in engineering physics. So is it the background that you had in philosophy that led you to question what we were doing with this software? Was that?
Perhaps, yes. One of my favorite philosophers is William Clifford. William Clifford tells a story about a ship owner. The ship owner's friends suggest that his ship is a death trap and that it will most certainly sink. Well, the ship owner lies to himself. He says, well, the ship has made many voyages. Surely it can make one more. He lies to himself, and when the ship sinks, he collects the insurance money with a clear conscience. William Clifford argues that surely this man is guilty of killing everyone on board the ship. In fact, even if the ship had not sunk, he was guilty. William Clifford argues that we're responsible for actions to the extent that we should have known better. I think this applies to software design as well. We're responsible for the consequences of our choices.
Of what we create. To
the extent that we should have known better. So in the design of internet and virtual reality technologies, it's important for us to design, to have an understanding of people in history, of design, and also to ask the important philosophical questions. 2,500 years ago, Plato asked, what is the good life? And today, I think it's time for us to re-examine that question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the reason that you got interested in virtual reality systems is rather unusual, because most people your age, and you are considerably younger than I am, get interested because they're fascinated with the gadgets and the gizmos. Is that what you saw going on? And you'd said, wait a minute, hold on. How are these things going to affect us?
Yes. I mean, certainly I love the gadgets and gizmos.
Well,
it's
who
exciting.
doesn't? Yeah, exactly.
But the gadgets and gizmos, when we design them, we also need to think about the impact of the gadgets and gizmos upon society. Marshall McLuhan describes it as the medium is the message. How does the technology we use influence who we are as humans? I think the way technology is being designed is something that is changed a little bit with the invention of the iPhone. With the development of the iPhone, we see emphasis on the user interface. Before that, I don't know, you had people working on code, and how can we take different building blocks, Legos, and to build something? What made sense from the perspective of building with Legos? Apple came along, and the reason why Apple was successful is they said, we're building things for humans. We're building products for humans. In order to build things for humans, we need to understand humans. We need to study humans. It's all about the user interface, about the human.
Is that why you think Apple put the GUI interface instead of the text-based interface of the IBM? The IBM computer predates the Apple, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
That's correct.
But they were a text-based screen. You looked at a screen, you were typing. It was like an electric typewriter. But Apple comes along and says, "Oh, why don't we have people click on little pictures, cute little pictures, smiley little faces, little things that go running around." Is that what you mean?
Yes, and it was revolutionary at the time. Now, as we're moving in the direction of building social software, in social software, once again, it's important to understand the user, to understand how people work together in groups. So once again, it's important for us to look at software design from a slightly different perspective. We're talking about the design of social groups.
All right. In your first book, which you wrote actually as an outgrowth of your terminal master's thesis, I say terminal master's thesis because many of our listeners probably don't even realize that there's no doctoral program where Mychilo can get his PhD because there's no one to give him the PhD. So he part of his master's program, he wrote this book, and in this book, he takes a tour through the ways in which technologies, the telegraph, the telephone, the radio, the television, the way in which the emergence of these technologies actually altered mores, customs, social etiquettes. Am I right?
That's correct. When we look at the history of technology, it's very interesting. Looking at history teaches us about the future. And we look at new technologies and we're impressed. Wow, there's this new technology. What's going to happen? But if we look back in history, we see that history repeats itself. In 1905, the electrical journal or magazine, Telephony, reflected, new inventions, devices, and processes are constantly bringing up questions of law, puzzling judges, lawyers, and laymen alike. Even back in 1905.
That was in 1905?
1905.
And it was caused by the telegraph and the radio?
With the telegraph, yes.
Telegraph.
So Tom Standage, author and editor of the Technology Quarterly at The Economist, argues that even back in the Victorian period, they had an internet. They called it the telegraph. The telegraph was called the highway of thought. On the telegraph, there were budding romances, problems and concerns over privacy, identity theft, many of the same issues we are now confronting.
Are we driving into the future, looking through the rearview mirror, as Marshall McLuhan suggests? My guest is Mychilo Stevenson Cline, and we'll be right back.